Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to episode number 18 of our PWG-TW 2020 series. We are into the end of March of 2022 and it's a double hitter today. It's All-Star Weekend 16. Wow, that's a lot of All-Star Weekends. It's been a couple of months since the last episode, a lot's happened. PWG's announced their return in real life, which is quite fascinating. Of course, they are returning with the Mystery Vortex show. That's accidentally the shortlist there. And if we look here, it's almost as if I had that idea back 11 months ago when this series started. And it feels weird because it's been a very quick 11 months. The last 11 months have flown by in my opinion. But here we are, ladies and gentlemen. And today we have the next episode, 2 whole shows. Last time out, we ran Buried in the Sound, a show that I cannot remember what happened, so we're looking at it here. Dragonly defeated Hedy Carroy. Will Hobbs defeated SoCal standout Lucas Riley. Alexander Hammerstone subjected Tony Deppen to defeat. Caveman Ugg got a big win for once. He teamed with Robbie Eagles, the sniper of the skies. They defeated the combination of Lee Moriarty and Willy Mack. Myron Reed defeated Fred Yehi, who was riding a wave of momentum. Myron Reed is now 4 wins in a row. Tony Deppen cost Yehi the match, beat him down after the match and stated that people should have expected this. It's been coming for a long time. Brody King defeated Eric Royal, and then after the match both Dragonly and the returning Zack Sabre Jr. issue out challenges to our World's Heavyweight Champion. And in the main event, the Velocities battled Aussie Open and Maxi Blood in a match for the World Tag Team Championships, which were the Velocities at the time, and they remain the Velocities, as in an excellent contest that any of the 3 teams could have won. The Velocities leave the Globe Theatre in front of a sold-out crowd with their tag team titles still over their shoulders and around their waists. That show was broadcast on IndependentWrestling.tv, of course an alliance that we are in. So maybe, just maybe, we might see their Independent Wrestling Championship arrive at some point. I believe the current champion, I think Lee Moriarty had it and lost it. I think it might be Daniel Garcia's belt now, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But let's jump right into the show. We kick things off with a technical exhibition in the opener, as in a bout that had good wrestling but didn't have much heat. Tony Deppen rebounds from last time out's defeat earlier this month. He gets a submission victory over Dean Allmark, submitting him. Hechicero was not involved in the finish. The match went 14 minutes and 31 seconds. Tony Deppen carried the match in terms of ring performance despite seeming off his game and only getting 10 better than the other 2. So is that really carrying? Because it's not like he got an 83 and they got 50s. They got 50s and he got 60. It's not that large of a gap between them. It's not like a vast quantity. But anyways, a good performance from Tony Deppen despite being off his game, and he submits Dean Allmark for the victory. If you're unfamiliar with either of these 2 newcomers, Dean Allmark is a veteran of the British wrestling independent circuit. He's one of the best on the continent, which isn't hard now given that every fucker with a pulse got signed. But Dean Allmark is genuinely fantastic, someone I would love to see get an opportunity in a big company. Rev Pro and Progress have brought him in this year, albeit to be fair, Progress are looking dead as fuck right now. At least it's still an opportunity for him to prove on a somewhat larger stage than usual just how capable and talented he is. Hechicero is one of the best rudos in, I'd say, in North American wrestling that doesn't get the appreciation that they should. Every time I've seen him, he has been fantastic, and he's competed in PWG before. Had a very good technical bout against Zack Sabre Jr. back in, I want to say, 2018. Yeah, I think it was 2018 because I know it was in the Globe Theatre, not in Reseda. Next up, we have a 56 when about that had good wrestling but little heat. Septimo Dragon debuts and is defeated in 7 minutes and 59 seconds by the powerhouse Will Hobbs with a brutal power slam. Will Hobbs gets a 50 to Dragon's 60. So a good performance from Septimo Dragon. Notice how Septimo didn't carry the match in terms of in-ring performance, despite the fact that his ratings there and Hobbs' rating was the exact same as the ratings in the last match. That is quite funky there. But Septimo Dragon does well in his debut. He can't quite get the victory. Everything he did was very good, but it was quite sparingly that he was hitting offense on the powerhouse, who just destroyed the Mexican luchador for the vast majority of the contest. Septimo's speed was no match for the power and strength and athleticism of the powerhouse, who in real life is a member of Team Taz, and I believe just helped Ricky Starks win the FTW title. So well done to Ricky Starks. Fair game to him. Next up we have a 75. Wow. In a bout that had superb wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd, Laredo Kid teams up with the Maxi Blood of Bandito and Flamita as they defeat the Schadenfreude faction, making their PWG debuts as a trifecta. And in 14 minutes and 48 seconds, Bandito pins Chris Brooks with a Revolution Fly. Laredo Kid gets a 60, 61 for Davis and Brooks, 66 for Fletcher, 68 for Flamita, and a magnificent 90 rating for Bandito. What a guy our former World Heavyweight Champion is. The longest World Heavyweight Champion in company history, I do believe. He certainly is now in real life. Will we see him retain the championship? I know he's just won the World Championship in Ring of Honor over Rush lately. Bandito took a photo of his grandmother with the championship and she looked quite proud of her grandson. So well done to Bandito, one of the best young wrestlers on the planet, and very, very handsome man under that mask by all accounts. But what a match that was. A brilliant contest. Schadenfreude were defeated. Schadenfreude, if anyone's unfamiliar with them, because as a faction, they were very dominant in Fight Club Pro, which is now defunct as a promotion, very fortunately. They did turn up in places like Progress, Rev Pro, Attack, and WXW for a hot minute, but they never seemed to really go anywhere because, you know, like COVID hit when Kyle Fletcher and Mark Davis was injured. Kyle Fletcher started doing things. Lucky Kid got signed. Tim Thatcher got signed. Walter got properly signed. Chris Brooks ended up going to Japan. Lycos retired. Fletcher got hurt. Did Fletcher get hurt? No, COVID happened. Fletcher couldn't wrestle. That's why he didn't wrestle much. So we might see a reunion of them in the future when all of them are back on British shores. But they were a very popular faction in the UK, despite not actually doing as much as they had potential to do via a variety of unfortunate and some fortunate circumstances, such as Chris Brooks going over to DDT and making somewhat of a name for himself in that faction with multiple championship wins. I might not be a huge fan of Chris Brooks, but I can see he markets himself very well, and there is definitely a place in professional wrestling for someone like him. Next up we have a 56 bout. As in a bout that had good wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd, Calvin Tankman gets a big win. Mr. Indestructible, he defeats the Dirty Daddy Chris Dickinson, who kind of looks like a Magikarp in his picture there. The match goes 13 minutes and 55 seconds. Oh fuck, I need to sneeze. And as soon as I say that, the sneeze goes away. That's not good. But in 14 minutes, just under... there we go, there's the sneeze, I'm keeping that in. But in 13 minutes and 55 seconds... Chris Dickinson is defeated by the indestructible Calvin Tankman, a man who's made his way over to MLW and recently had a bout against Jacob Fatu, I want to say. Was it Fatu? Or was it Lee Moriarty? It was one of the two of them, but he had a match with someone that was apparently quite good. Tankman gets a 51, Dickinson gets a 62. I know that at that show, Tankman was part of the Battle Riot match, which will air this weekend over on MLW's YouTube. I'm not an avid watcher of MLW, I feel like it's very hit or miss, but they have some potential here, and I am looking forward to the Battle Riot. I'm a big fan of a good Rumble, and I think that the Rumble is the best match type in wrestling that's not a huge stipulation like a Hell in a Cell or anything like that. I think Royal Rumbles, Aztec Warfare is a variation of that as well, and the Survivor Series elimination tag matches, I think that when done right, those are the best matches in wrestling. If anyone disagrees, let me know what you think is better than those. I did used to love things like Money in the Bank and Elimination Chamber until it felt a little bit overdone on an annual basis, especially when with some of them you were getting 2, maybe even 3 of those each year. I know 2016 there were 3 Money in the Bank ladder matches, 2010 there was 3 as well. But yeah, some fantastic match types there. And a very good match tonight where Calvin Tankman picks up one of the biggest wins of his career to date. Next up we have a 62 where in a bout that had great wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd, Myron Reed goes 5-0 on his current undefeated run here in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. He defeats Daniel Maccabee in 15 minutes and 19 seconds via pinfall. Myron Reed gets a 59 to Daniel Maccabee's 60. A match that would be very good. Myron Reed growing more and more with each passing victory here in PWG, which is always brilliant to see, by the way. I love watching wrestlers grow in this game. Daniel Maccabee doing very well, the veteran there with a 60. One of the most underutilized competitors in all of North America, if I may say so myself. And I'm hoping to see big things for him when things fully reopen up. You know, once we've got companies like PWG bringing people back across to the States, it would be good to see him in California. Following this, we have a 67 where Miro, the current All Elite Wrestling TNT champion in real life, of course not in this game, he's not even in AEW in this game, which feels foreign, but that's just how long this save's been going. And in a bout that had superb wrestling creativity, Miro defeats Willy Mack in 13:59 via submission, of course, with the accolade. Miro gets a 73 to Willy Mack's 65. The match was too short for an important match in the eyes of audience, but I didn't want to have it go too long because, as you may remember, we've had Dickinson versus Tankman. We had Powerhouse Will Hobbs throwing Septimo about. We also have a match on the card that involves Brody King, Alex Hammerstone and Caveman Ugg. So there's been quite a lot of heavyweight action up and down the card tonight. So I didn't want to go too long with a big hoss fight because I feel like that would be a bit over the top and a bit overkill, especially with this being a weekender event. But Willy Mack performs great there. Someone who's really good in this save. I urge you all to book him in any saves that you have if you've got a spot on the roster for him. He is very good. And again, someone who, quite like AR Fox, hasn't quite got the opportunities that they've deserved in wrestling, but it is good to see that Willy Mack got a prominent role in the undercard of Lucha Underground, and that he has had opportunities, I believe, X Division champion, if I do recall correctly, in Impact, which is good, you know, because he deserves a run with the belt, just like Josh Alexander does as X Division champion, and that's really good to hear about. I'd say to see, but I'm not spending my time watching Impact. It's 2021. Next up, we have our main event 6-man tag team bout, which had great wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd. It saw Team Australia defeat Team America. Team Australia is Caveman Ugg and the Velocities. Of course, the Velocities hailing from Sydney, and Caveman Ugg coming from the nearest cave in Melbourne, Victoria now. Alex Hammerstone, Brody King and Lee Moriarty are their opposition tonight, and the ops of the Australians are defeated as Caveman Ugg pins Lee Moriarty with a Splash Mountain's Edge. He was initially going to pin Hammerstone, but Hammerstone went, where, I don't want to lose. So instead Lee Moriarty bit the bullet, which is another loss for him. Lee Moriarty was also meant to be in tag team action tomorrow, but I've got news, ladies and gentlemen. Lee Moriarty, he goes backstage after the show and he says he doesn't want to fight tomorrow. He doesn't have it in him. He can't keep losing. It's not good for him. He needs to go away and he needs to re-evaluate things. Clearly something's not clicking in PWG. He knows he's one of the best around, but yet he can't buy a win in PWG. So he's going to take some time off. He will be there tomorrow to sell a bit of merch, to meet some fans, but Lee Moriarty will no longer be in action in the scheduled tag team bout. But some good performances there in this 6-man tag. I expected a little more from Brody. I expected something in the 70s because it's easier to get higher in-ring performances when you're in a 6-man tag than it is to get them in a long singles bout. The show gets a 67 rating. It increased our popularity in 18 regions. And what I'm going to do here, ladies and gentlemen, is just pause the recording quickly, and I'll see you all in just a moment for night 2. And so, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. It is time for night 2. Are you ready, ladies and gentlemen? Are you ready to see some all-star wrestlers? Let's jump right into the show. We kick things off with tag team action, as in a bout that gets a 55. Hechicero and Laredo Kid defeat the team of Chris Brooks and Dean Allmark in an England versus Mexico bout. In 11 minutes and 57 seconds, Laredo Kid gets a win as he puts Chris Brooks away to the 450 splash. Initially, it was going to be Hechicero submitting Dean Allmark, and then I thought about it and I went, nah, bollocks to that. Brooks is eating the pin. Laredo Kid is getting the win. I think Laredo Kid has the most upside in this bout. A big win for Laredo Kid, who in the last 11 months has blossomed into one of the best wrestlers in the world. I say that. He already was one of the best. I just think he got a couple of prominent opportunities. I mean, we saw MLW have Laredo Kid and they did the square root of jack shit with him, unfortunately. Which is a shame, you know. You expect MLW to do something with them. They're usually very good at utilising talent that other companies might not get the best out of. In a similar vein to ECW, you know, as much as some of their stars are money, I don't think I can envision a company handling the likes of Myron Reed or marketing like Myron Reed, Joe Oliver, Jacob Fatu, Mance Warner, even the likes of Simon Gotch, as well as MLW did. Same applies for like Davey Boy Jr. or the Von Erichs, you know. They've got people like that very over, and I don't think there's a company where Filthy Tom Lawler could have excelled quite as well as he did in MLW so far. But yeah, you usually expect them to do well, but unfortunately with Laredo Kid they did drop the ball a bit, but that's okay. Not everything is going to be a home run in life, but it was tonight for Laredo Kid, who gets a win to start off the show. We follow this up with a 42 where Will Hobbs beats up Matt Mikowski, the former MMA fighter. He beats him in 8 minutes and 11 seconds with a power slam. I expected Matt Mikowski to be very good. I saw him in a match at WrestleMania weekend against Hedy Karoy. A match I loved, but fucking hell, he gets a 15 here. That's no good, that. A 15 performance in PWG is just disastrous. I'd hate to see that in real life. What would be a good match in real life? I'd hate to see someone turn up and do that bad. That's probably the worst PWG debut since Brian Myers in Battle of Los Angeles many moons ago. We then have a 6-fighter tag team bout. It's in a match that had great wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd. The Velocities and the Sniper of the Skies, Robbie Eagles, defeat Hedy Karoy and Top Flight in 12:56 when Robbie Eagles pins Hedy with a pulse drop. In terms of in-ring work, Robbie was the star of the match as he looked head and shoulders above everyone else, getting a very impressive 77. Robbie Eagles recently announcing his return to the nation of Japan. He's either going to challenge or has challenged, by the time this airs, the junior heavyweight champion who I think is still El Desperado. So that sounds like something that could be a very fun bout. Good luck to Robbie Eagles in his attempt to win his first singles gold in the company. But yeah, a great match there as Robbie and our tag champs are successful in their aim to pick up a big fat W. We follow this up with a 62 when about that had great wrestling and good heat. Myron Reed defeated Willy Mack in 15:03 via pinfall due to the Skywalker finishing manoeuvre. Willy Mack goes 0 for 2 this weekend. He's performed well in this company, but he's just not quite got the results to show for it. In a similar vein to several competitors we've had at times, whether that be a Lee Moriarty or the likes of a Mick Moretti or even Caveman Ugg at times. Myron Reed gets a 61 to Willy Mack 62. Two great wrestlers that have a lot of potential in this save, I do think. Two potential future world champions as well. So let's see how they do in the future. I think Bowler could be very successful for either one of these two men. After the match, Myron Reed picks up the microphone. He goes, "I've got 6 wins in a row. No one can touch me. Give me the champ." Because tonight, Brody King defends against Dragon Lee and Zack Sabre Jr. in a triple threat bout. He wants whoever walks out of that match as champion, and I think Myron Reed has earned that. So at the next show, Myron Reed will main event challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship against whoever the current champion at that point in time is. Next up, we have a horse bout. As in a 59 rated contest that had great wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd. Alexander Hammerstone defeats the Aussie Caveman Ugg in 12 minutes and 4 seconds with a stone breaker. He broke the cave and he gets the win. A 62 for Hammer, a 58 for Caveman Ugg. A wild brawl. There was a lot of pent-up aggression between these two men from last night's 6-man tag team bout where UG defeated Hammerstone's tag team partner in the match. Hammerstone gets a measure of revenge here tonight, but the way they fought, it seems like these two men may very well fight again. Eli Drake then crashes the show, and you're probably thinking, what the fuck's he doing here? He's the IWTV Independent Wrestling Champion somehow, so yeah, he's here, he crashes the show, he runs down PWG, and he says there's no one here that can beat him. Out comes Tony Deppen. He also runs down PWG. He hates the fans too. He hates the locker room too. He hates the roster too. Eli Drake says he's the only person here who's not a dummy. He's the only person who looks like a star. He is a walking, talking superstar. Tony Deppen tries to roll him up and the match begins, but it's not a singles bout. It's a triple threat bout. As out comes Fred Yehi, and he's back. It's Fred Yehi. And he submits Eli Drake in 111 seconds to a Koji clutch. He pushes Deppen out the ring, submits Eli Drake, makes the champ tap out, and a man who wasn't even booked tonight, wasn't even booked all weekend, he was in AAW in Chicago last night, he leaves California tonight as your new independent wrestling champion. Tony Deppen is outraged. Eli Drake is stunned as he comes together, as he gets his wits together, as he regains some form of consciousness. Eli Drake has lost his championship. Fred Yehi is your new independent wrestling champion. I will be honest, this was meant to be Lee Moriarty, but Lee Moriarty was unable to fulfill this role because Eli Drake is only here on an alliance loan. He vetoed the match because he has creative control for some fucking reason. He refused to drop the belt to Lee Moriarty, and so Tony Deppen was brought in the match to make the triple threat. Even with Deppen taking the submission defeat, Drake still wouldn't let it slide, so Fred Yehi came in to get the tap out win, to get the belt off of Eli Drake, which is a shame, because I really did want to be Moriarty. I thought it would be a magnificent way to have Moriarty rapidly tap out Eli Drake and gain his mojo back, so we're going to have to find another way for Lee Moriarty to find his confidence, because I feel like Lee Moriarty, in a similar vein to Shawn Michaels in the 90s, has lost his smile, just probably without the rampant drug abuse and allegations of sexual misbehaviour. Next up, we have a phenomenal 77 rated bout where we have superb wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd as Maxi Blood defeats Aussie Open in 15 minutes and 31 seconds when Flamita pins Kyle Fletcher with a fly flame. In terms of in-ring work, Bandito was head and shoulders above everyone else, getting a 90 for the second night in a row. Flamita gets a 73, Fletcher with a 65, Davis with a 57. Aussie Open were unsuccessful in their bid to get a win tonight, but I think this win for Maxi Blood has just earned Bandito and Flamita a straight-up tag team match, a 2v2 title shot against Jude London and Paris de Silva, the Velocities. That, my friends, is what we call a dream match. That will take place in the show coming up after the next one, because in the next show it's Bandito versus Paris de Silva and Jude London versus Flamita. So we will see Maxi Blood battle the Velocities in singles competition, and then we will see Maxi Blood battle the Velocities in tag team warfare a show later with the gold on the line. So it gives both teams an opportunity to really build up some momentum going into the tag title bout. Next up, we have a fucking 81, where in a bout that had superb wrestling and great heat, the World's Championship is retained for the 4th time in Brody King's reign, as in a match that had superb wrestling and great heat, Brody King defeats Dragon Lee and Zack Sabre Jr. in 32 minutes and 40 seconds. He pins New Japan Pro Wrestling's Zack Sabre Jr. with 2 straight Gonzo bombs. He retains the gold. Brody with the 65, Sabre with the 74, and an injured Dragon Lee who has a cracked tailbone pulls an 83 whilst wrestling for over half an hour. A magnificent performance there from the luchador, who just impresses tenfold. Dragon Lee may just have to have a singles championship match against our world heavyweight champion. The show gets a 76. It was absolutely phenomenal. Who's getting praised other than Bandito and Dragon Lee? Who impressed? Not Matt Mikowski, that's for sure. He got a flipping 15, him. I don't know who actually did really, really well. I guess Flamita was quite good if I remember. But we'll give praise to Zack Sabre Jr. because that, I believe, was a one and done appearance. I don't think Sabre Jr. will be competing again in this save because there's just nothing for him, and I don't want to have loads of good wrestlers around with nothing to do because that's kind of not what PWG really is in this save. I don't just want to have loads of people lingering about because then their matches will mean absolutely fuck all with a incredibly bloated roster, so that's something I'm trying to avoid. But anyways, the next episode, ladies and gentlemen, Bandido fights Paris de Silva, Jude London fights Flamita, and there was one match I announced before that I completely forgot, so I'll have to watch this back to remember what it was. What was it, a specific match? It might have been a specific match, but I genuinely really can't remember, so my apologies there. But thank you all for watching. I hope you've all had a great time. I've quite enjoyed this. It's been good to return to the PWG series, and I hope to see you all very, very soon for some more Pro Wrestling Guerrilla on TW 2020.